So first of all, thank you very much for joining us in this webinar. It's a marketing specific webinar, so we're going to be covering some marketing topics specifically related to conversion and tracking. Please keep in mind that it's impossible to cover all marketing topics related to Landbot in just one webinar. We'll just try to cover the basics because we know that there are people from different levels out there. So we'll cover the basics. We'll have a little Q&A session at the end. If we don't have time enough to answer all those questions, we'll do it through email. So the structure is going to be as follows. So I'm going to do a little presentation on what we're going to see during the webinar. Then we'll start building our Landbot from scratch. We'll configure some apps, we'll integrate it, we'll make cool things. Then we'll test it. You all are going to test our creation. So we're going to see a big number of interactions there. And finally, that Q&A session. So if you have any questions, instead of using this chat, I would like you to use the Q&A section. That's a bit more specific, and I'm able to take those questions already answered. So if you could use the Q&A to ask questions, but you can still use the chat to talk between you. So that's great. Yeah, Marcela, it's going to be recorded, and we're going to send that recording to all of you. So don't worry about that. Also, the presentation, if it's helpful, we'll share it too. So let's begin. I'm gonna stop my video and start sharing my screen. You'll be muted during the whole session, but again, at the end, I'll check the Q&A section for your questions. And hope you enjoyed this webinar. Thanks again for coming. All right, I believe you're watching my screen already. So let me switch to the presentation. Again, this is Landbot for marketers. We'll try to cover those basic steps to build your lead machine. That's me, the right Chris VR, and supporting me here if anything goes wrong is Frank Conecos, our CMO. So what we're going to see, we're going to first build a lead machine. We're going to be able to flow from scratch. We're going to give different options to users. We're going to ask for data. We'll try to score using conditional logic, and we're going to integrate some other cool stuff. Things like Google Analytics. We're going to integrate it with Google Sheets too through Zapier. You already know we're part of their directory now, so it's super easy to configure. Just a few clicks, you'll see it. And finally, we're going to analyze it from two different perspectives. First, from the app, there's an analyze section where we can check that block by block conversion and many other things. We'll check that. And also, since we've integrated it with Google Analytics, we'll go to our Google Analytics account and check all those metrics. Yeah, this is some things we'll be using. We're going to send some variables through the URL. This is something we get asked a lot, and it's great if you want to customize that experience. So you don't need to start from scratch talking to a Landbot, but he can bring some variables to the conversation and customize the experience. And also, this is the JavaScript function we'll be using to integrate Google Analytics. But first, let me close this and go to our Landbot app. So we've just logged in. This is one of our main accounts. I'm gonna go full screen. So we got all of our Landbots here. We have plenty of them. And let's start building the flow. So I'm gonna click here and create a new Landbot. And let's start with the first message. So you know it's start message, we cannot delete it. Let's customize this a little bit. I'm gonna start with a question and then some different answers so we can check the analyze section later and see all that different choices conversion. So something like, hello there, how are you feeling today? And let's give it some options like I'm feeling great, I'm feeling bad, or things like that. Yeah, I think that's, yeah, I love you, Chris. So we got 3 different options on the start message and then this other block. I'm going to delete it. This is just for you to know that you can keep adding more and more blocks, but I'm going to create a different simple message for each option. First one is going to be a simple message, something like super. And now I'm going to add a variable. You'll see later why am I adding this variable, because that's the variable I'm going to send through the URL. And I'll let you know more about this later. So let me add it here, first name. We haven't asked for the name yet, but this is going to work. Just give it some minutes. If you feel bad, something like, I'm sorry to hear that. Again, first name. And finally, I love you, Chris. I love you too. Great. So now let's start with the questions. So many of you were asking our team, what's the best way of building a chatbot to convert? to increase that conversion. In which order should you ask questions? Is it better to ask for the email right at the beginning to make sure you get as many emails as possible? Is it better to bring some information and then ask for some information? I think that the key here is to find the perfect balance. So you cannot start the flow by asking 3, 4, 5, 6 different questions, as long as it's not a form. But if you want to generate leads, you need to give something in exchange. So it's always great to explain your service, to tell visitors why they're there, what can they expect from the Landbot, and then start asking data in a natural way. So if you ask for the name, use it as a variable. If you ask for the email, build up an excuse, like I want to make sure we can still get in touch if something goes wrong. So you need to be clever in that sense of building the flow and asking, but also giving information to users. So now we're going to ask for a question like, I don't know, something like country maybe. So I'm going to drag and drop, ask a question. I'm going to go for text. Which country are you based? Great, we can change the field name here. We're going to use country, or something like country 1, just to make sure there's no conflict with the country we picked originally from every single visitor. And this is the error message. It's not going to be triggered here. So I'm going to ask, on which country are you based? Great. I'm just going to save this. Let me link the other 2 blocks. Great. I'm going to zoom out a little bit just to make sure I get the good overview of the whole flow. And now I'm going to ask for the email. Of course, as I was previously saying, you were supposed to give some more information here. You can, generate that engagement by, I don't know, telling the joke, explaining your service, adding an image or a GIF, a YouTube video, anything that would enrich the visitor's experience is going to help you convert more. So many people think that maybe, I don't know, big companies or corporate customers will not be that much into chatbots, into funny chatbots with all those images and GIFs. But the reality is that in our specific case, it worked great for every single type of customer. Of course, there are some people that don't like emojis that much, or jokes or GIFs, but it's important to be engaged in that way, and being fun is always a good way to go. So now I'm going to ask for another question. I'm going to ask for the email, and this is the key question of the whole flow, guys. So I'm gonna ask for the email, and that's going to mean a conversion to me. This is really important to you. Every time you create a chatbot, you need to keep in mind what's your goal. In my case, getting the email is the goal. And then the thing here that I'm going to do is that I'm going to trigger my conversion event right after asking for the email. So that's really, really important. It might be the name, it might be the budget, it might be the address, but you need to keep in mind what's your goal, and then track that conversion oriented to that goal. So I'm going to ask for the email. Could you tell me your email? I'm good with the predefined question, and I'm going to hit save. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add another block. This would be like this thank you page of a regular landing page. I'm going to say thank you, and I'm going to add that HTML that's going to track my conversion thanks to Google Analytics. I'm going to show you how. So I'm going to create a simple message. I'm going to say thanks. And now let me go back to the presentation. If I go to this slide, Google Analytics JavaScript. So in order to define an event, we need to paste this code. We can customize the name of the parameters right on the flow. So this is the original script, and we've just customized it to bring some names to category, action, and label. So for example, if we were talking about a video, the category would actually be the video. The action could be playing the video, and the label would be that specific video they're playing. Imagine we have 10 videos, so we got video, play video, this specific video. So in our case, we're going to use the names Landbot, conversion, and DemoBot. So Landbot is the category, conversion is the action, and label is DemoBot. I'm going to show you how to transfer all these parameters to Google Analytics in no time. So I'm going to copy these. This is part of one of our articles. Again, we're going to share this presentation with you to make sure you got all the information. So I'm just going to copy these and paste it. So I'm going to paste it right here. I can make this a little bit bigger. And I got my script. I got the HTML text to make sure it's not shown for the final user. And I'm going to save it. Great. So I got my 2 questions, country, email. This is the data I want to get. So this is my my event being triggered, which means a conversion. That's super important. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to send all this information collected through Zapier to Google Sheet. So it's important. It's important to keep all your leads on an actionable tool, and we love Google Sheets. So I'm gonna add a Powerup, and that's gonna be the Zapier integration. For those of you that don't know Zapier, Zapier is basically a huge app directory that allows you to make zaps. That's how they call them. That there are basically relations between different apps. So you have one trigger and one action. So for example, I want that people that reach this block, I want to send all that information to any other app, in this case, Google Sheet. It's as simple as that. So Zapier is really, really useful, not only for Landbot, but for your day-to-day tasks. And it's great for productivity. So right now I've created a Zapier integration block. I got the Landbot token right here, and I'm going to configure it on Zapier later on, same for Google Analytics. But first, let me finish the flow. So I'm going to save it by now. Great. And I'm going to continue the flow. So I got my questions, I got my event for Google Analytics, I got my information sent through Zapier, and now I'm gonna add some conditional logic. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna add a new block, and it's gonna be conditional logic, and it's gonna work as follows. So I'm gonna drop it here, and I want to make it conditional the content of the email provided by the visitor. So if I need to select the field, if field email contains, let's say I'm trying to market someone from Ford. So if the email contains Ford.com, I'm going to send that visitor to a certain blog, and if not, they're gonna go to a different blog. This is great. You can keep adding more and more conditional logic blocks, and you can score your leads using that. It can be something that the email contains, but you can also make open questions like, what's your budget? And if your budget is over this amount, I'm going to send you to this blog or to this other blog. So it's really, really helpful, and it really customizes the experience to use conditional logic blocks. I'm going to save this, and as you can see, when the field email contains Ford.com, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another Powerup, and this time I'm going to assign the chat to an agent. So remember, I'm trying to market people from Ford.com, so if they provide their email and it contains Ford.com, I want to talk personally to them. So I'm going to create this block. Let me click on it. And remember, I have the option here to customize the content of this whole block, because this block contains several messages. Leave us a message and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. How can we reach you? We are going to ask for the email again, but I'm just going to leave it default just for you to understand the whole flow. And I'm going to save. So if it contains Ford.com, I'm going to assign that chat to a human agent. And if it doesn't, I'm just going to finish the conversation with a simple message like, thanks for being here. Bye. And that's good. Great. So we got the full flow. I think we have pretty much what we need here. So we've given 3 different options for you to see the conversions on the flow analytics section. We're going to ask for a couple of questions, country, email. Email is a key question that's going to trigger this event on Google Analytics. We're going to send all that information through Zapier. And we're adding some conditional logic here that if the email contains Ford.com, we're going to assign that chat to an agent because that's the person we want to talk with. And if it doesn't, we're just going to finish the conversation. All right, so I'm gonna save this. And before starting to customize the Google Analytics and Zapier, let me play a little bit with design. So we see that some of our users don't really spend that much time on design, and we believe it's super important. If you want to engage your users, if you want that wow effect whenever they're talking to your Landbot, to customize it. You have like more than 30, 40 variables. I don't know. You can even add CSS to customize it to the limit. So I strongly recommend spending not as much time as in the builder, but you need to spend some time on the design section and align it with your brand image and make it look cool. So I'm just going to add a couple of things. I'm going to add a background. I don't really like this green, so I'm going to go for an image background. Let me upload it. All right, so my desktop, I got something, yeah, right here. So I got this, cool image, and I'm just we got these 4 base colors here. So we have a lot of options in terms of colors, so we can, get crazy customizing all these, and we can just go for the base colors, which are the most predominant colors here. I'm gonna change the primary, and what I'm gonna do is I already have one of my favorite colors here in this extension. These kind of extensions work great If you want that specific color that you see on the web page, you can just click here and pick it from anywhere on the web. This is great. So I'm going to copy these hexadecimal code, close the extension, and I'm going to put it as a primary color. I'm going to paste it here, and it's not that color. Sorry, let me change it. Yeah, here, bottoms background. There you go. So now it looks like, yeah, quite sophisticated, and yeah, I'm happy with this design. So I'm just gonna hit save. Really important too. You can customize all these things in the header, and this works basically like the title of your landing page. So as important as the start message, that's the first message that visitors will see. It's really important to add a strong message here. So what your company is about, the name of your company here in the lower text. You can add this tagline and explain a little bit more about your service. It works great. I'm just going to leave it like that, but you can customize everything. All right, I'm happy with these. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to configure the Google Analytics integration to make sure I track all those conversions. So the first thing I need to do, really important, is I need to go to settings, then click on SEO and tracking, and scroll down until I find the Google Analytics ID. Of course, I can customize the meta title, the web icon, the meta description, everything. But what's important, if I want to track conversions, I need to add my Google Analytics ID. Where I'm going to find it, I'm going to go to my Analytics section. I'm going to click on Admin. I'm already there. Property settings, and I'll find it right here. So I'm just going to copy this code and paste it back in the app. Great. So now my Google Analytics account is linked to this chatbot, so I can trigger that event. Great. I save changes, and I'm good to go. So the next thing I need to do with Google Analytics is go back to our account, and then I need to click on Admin again, and I need to create a new goal. As I was saying before, goals are that thing you're pursuing when you want to track some event. So in this case, our goal is getting the email, and that's why we pasted that HTML. So I'm going to create a new goal just for this Landbot. I click here to create a new goal, and this is super simple. I'm going to go quite quickly. I need to add a name, so it's Landbot Webinar for Marketers Demo. I'm going to click on Type Event because that's the event I've pasted into the Landbot blog, and I'm going to click Continue. And here, remember these three parameters: category, action, and label. That's basically what I'm going to add there. So it's Landbot, conversion, and demo bot. Let me go back to analytics. It's Landbot, sorry, conversion, and demo bot. And I'm happy to go. I could add a value to, but I don't need it here. So I'm just leaving it like that. So I'm going to click Save. And basically, here's my goal. So Landbot Webinars for Marketers Demo. Everything seems to be working great. So to see it in action, we need to actually talk to that Landbot, and we're going to do that later. So now I got my Google Analytics integrated into my Landbot. I'm going to go move on to Zapier. So remember in the flow, if I go back to the builder, I had this Zapier integration block. And what I'm going to do, if you don't have your Landbot account integrated with your Zapier account, this is the Landbot talking you'll need. But if you do have it, you just need to do a few clicks. So let me show you. We go to our Zapier account and we click on Make a Zap. As I told you, we need to choose between two different apps: the Trigger app and the Action app. The Trigger app is going to be obviously Landbot. So I look for Landbot, and here it is. Zapier block activated, which means that someone has gone through that Zapier block. Really important here, before continuing with the configuration of your Zapier integration, we always recommend going through the whole flow as a final user to make sure everything's okay. So I'm gonna test my flow really quickly. I click on the share section to find the URL. I copy it, I open some incognito window, and I access my bot. So you're gonna see what it looks like. So hello there, how are you feeling today? I'm feeling great. You're gonna see the variable here. Super, on which country are you based? Spain. Can you tell me your email? Or landbot.io. It doesn't contain for.com, so it's just going to say thanks. Thanks for being here. Bye. Great. So now the Zapier integration block has been triggered because I've gone through the whole flow. So yeah, we're happy to go. What we're gonna do now is go to Zapier again. Now I can click on Save and Continue, and I need to choose my account. So if you have never done this before, just click here and connect an account, but we did. So I have my account here, Cristobal@landbot.io. I'm gonna pick that one, save and continue. Now I need to select the Landbot I'm referring to. In this case, I haven't changed the name, so let me change it. Webinar marketers, something like that. Let me save it. Great. Let's look for these, but if it's not yet, I'm gonna refresh. Yeah, here it is, webinar marketers. So now I'm telling Zapier that that Zapier blog is actually on this specific account and on this specific Landbot. So I'm gonna click and continue, and I'm gonna fetch and continue to make sure everything's okay. Should be. Great. So now I need to select the action app. So the trigger is going to be a new conversation with our Landbot. And now what we're going to do with that trigger, we're going to send that information to Google Sheets. So I'm going to search Google Sheets here, and same process. I want to create a spreadsheet row. We can select different options, but create a new spreadsheet row is the most common one. Save and continue. And same thing here. I'm going to connect my account, save and continue. And now I need to select on which specific spreadsheet I want to send that information to. I've created this spreadsheet, really simple, name, email, and country, Landbot for Marketers webinar. Great, so let me look for it. Here it is, Landbot for Marketing webinar. And the worksheet by default is going to be sheet 1, so great. Now it automatically retrieves all the fields that I've added to this sheet. So I got name, I got email, I got country, I got these 3 different fields. And here I'm gonna pick the variables from Landbot. So I click here and you see I got all the different variables that Landbot has about me. And I'm gonna get the name here. I'm gonna get the email, and I'm gonna get the country 1. By default, we pick country because we work pretty much like a live chat. So we always kind of know the country depending on the IP, but in this case, we're asking specifically for it. So I'm gonna pick this new field, country 1, that's Spain in this case. So I'm gonna continue. It's gonna show me some resume of what I've just built, and I'm gonna send a test to Google Sheet. All right, it's been sent, and here's the information. Brown bag is the by default name. You know that in our app, if you don't know the name of the visitor, we assign random names that are based on the color plus an animal. That's brown bag in my case. I got the email, chris@landbot.io, and I got the country, Spain. So we're good to go. I'm gonna click here and finish. And I'm gonna name it, again, webinar marketers. And I'm gonna turn it on. It's really important to turn it on. We got many people asking us, hey, my Zap is not working. Yeah, I always forget these. Just turn it on and you can see it in your dashboard. Great, so the only thing that's left is configuring that way of sending a variable through the URL. So we got the Google Analytics integration, Zapier integration, and now we need to send that variable. So how the thing works, let me go back to the presentation and move on to that slide. So in order to send variable through the URL, we need to add a little JavaScript function. That's the function that's going to contain three different parameters. The first one is a variable name in the URL. So in the URL, we're going to name it as name. The variable name in Landbot, also in the flow, that's why I've chosen add first name, is the second one, and there is fallback. There's always a fallback when there's no name for that specific visitor. In this case, it's going to be there because of that hi there. So the cool thing here is that now I'm going to create a URL with just one one field, and it's going to always be Chris. But if you're using some other software like MailChimp, for instance, that allows you to add URLs with variable fields, we can create that customized experience, and you can hit your whole database of emails and customize their names on the Landbot, and it's really, really cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just copy this whole function, and I'm going to paste it on design. So I go back to the app, I click on design, advanced, and I can add here both CSS to customize the appearance and JavaScript to, well, to make these kind of cool things. I'm going to paste it here, and everything should be great. I'm going to save it. Awesome. So let me show you how this works. So if I go back to share, and I copy this URL, all I need to do to send the variable through the URL now is add this interrogative sign name equals Chris. So let me show you. I paste the URL, interrogative sign name equals Chris. Let me show you. So what starts? Oh, I had already opened it here. Let me refresh again. I had another incognito window open. And let's see if the variable is sent. You see here, name equals Chris. I'm feeling great. Super Chris. Which country are you based? So again, this is going to work just for Chris, but you can add a variable using any software to that URL. So every single one of your users will have their name or any other field. You can add several fields. We have an article dedicated to this feature. If you check our knowledge base, is named how to send variables through the URL. You got the function here, you got step-by-step process, how to add more than one field, like name and email. So you can really, really improve the experience of your visitors with these sending variables through the URL. So let me close this, go back to the Landbot, and I think we're done. We have everything we needed. Let me do something just to make sure the name is not always in a color and an animal. Let me change the flow a little bit, and I'm gonna ask another question. I'm just gonna leave it like that, just to make sure it's all the configuration is set. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna send you this URL through the chat, and I'd love if some of you could try it, so we can see all those conversations from both Analyze section and Google Analytics. So again, I'm gonna go to share. Well, I got it here, so let me just copy it from here, and I'm gonna send it through the Zoom chat. So I'm sending it now. So if you can enter that Landbot, please, and fill in the different information asked, so we can see all those interactions happening. It would be much appreciated. I believe you're watching the. Great. So hope some of you are actually there. So if I go back to analytics, I click on real time, your overview, and I see that, yeah, some of you are already talking to that Landbot. I got 20 people right now. This is the URL I've just shared with you, name equals Chris. Love it how some of you have been customized the URL. That's great. And yeah, this means that everything is working apparently as it should. So we can go to events. Exactly, it's working so far so good. We see 22 people right now on the site. 4 of you have already left some their email, which is cool. And right now, we won't be able to check all this information from the acquisition or any other section where we can measure all those conversions and actionate them, because it takes some minutes. But yeah, conversions is the final section that proves that everything's working great. But again, in like, I don't know, like 30 minutes or something, we'll be able to see all that data in a more actionable form, not just who's talking to the Landbot right now, but we can see all those funnels and those graphs. but this is proving that everything's working great so far. I say that some of you had chosen to talk to an agent. Maybe you provided an email with for.com. That's why I'm getting a notification in Landbot, which, customer assigned golden N has been automatically assigned to you. Remember that if you go back to the dashboard and you click on chats, you can see all your Landbots here. And where's webinars? Can't find it. Yeah, I believe this one, yeah. Yeah, so one of you is assigned to myself. Let me take the assigned folder, and I can click here and just jump in the conversation. Hey there. So I believe there's someone in the UK just received my message. Hey, how you doing? So yeah, interesting question. Yeah, I would like you to ask these questions in the Q&A section, and we'll answer them all at the end of the webinar. Thanks for asking. So as you can see, the flow is working great with in Google Analytics, how all that conversion is being tracked. We can see all those visits there, how many of them are leaving the information we needed. And that's great. Now let's go back to the app and let's see with our own analyze tools what we can see from there. So I go back to the dashboard, scroll down, webinar marketers, open the Landbot, and I click on the analyze section. So I click here. I got some, as you know, some metrics like conversations, how many people actually access the URL, leads, how many of you left at least one piece of information, and finished, how many of you went through the whole conversation. So if I click on Flow Analytics, hopefully I will be able to see how many of you have chosen each option. So for example, for the first start message, how are you feeling? So 80% of you are feeling great. 11% are feeling bad. I'm sorry about that. And yeah, 7% you users love me, which is great. Thank you guys. I love you too. And then of course 100% of users went on to the next block. We can also see these red connects, these red arrows, sorry, that tell us to drop off at different points. So apparently 5 users close the Landbot right on these blocks, and we can continue 69% of conversion and 100% of conversion. This is a block by block conversion. This is important because you see 100% here, but it's not the 100% that start the conversation. If you hover it, you can see the exact amount of users that went through this block. And same here, 83% were whose email did not contain for.com, but some of you did provide an email with for.com for users, and those are the conversations that have been assigned to myself, so I can I've scored that lead and I can talk to him personally, which is great. So finally, let's check our sheet. Yeah, here it is, all the information provided by you. We got it all here. We got the emails, we got the countries, and we got the names. In this case, the by default name provided by our app. So great. I see people from all around the world. This is great. Thanks for taking the time to talk to these Landbot. So I believe we're pretty much done. We've covered everything we wanted to cover. We wanted to be fast, but again, we have a lot of documentation we'll be sharing with you on how to do each one of these steps we've followed. We just wanted to get that quick overview of what's possible in terms of analyzing your conversation, asking for data and tracking that conversion using external tools like Google Analytics, send that information through Zapier, and also applying some conditional logic blocks included in every premium plan to score those leads or to actually qualify them. And if they're qualified, we can talk to them in person. If they're not, we can just say, okay, thank you, bye. And that was pretty much it. Hope it was interesting for you. It was quite simple and fast, but cut to the chase. And I believe this is what most of you are wondering how to use Landbot for conversion. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. I'm gonna take all your questions. And one more thing now that I remember. So this is the process we followed because Landbot was under our domain. So it was landbot.io /u/something, and that's why the Google Analytics configuration was like this. But if you have your Landbot embedded into your own website, you can still track conversions using Google Analytics, but you need to follow a slightly different process. This week we'll be releasing 3 different articles. First one is going to cover how to specifically track with Google Analytics your conversions when Landbot is in our domain. Then we're going to cover a second article with how to track conversions when the Landbot is embedded into your site. And the third one is going to be about Google Tag Manager. I know that many of you are really interested in this Google feature. It's kind of complex, and that's why it took us some time even for us to discover every possibility with Google Tag Manager, but it's super powerful, and I believe you'll find it super useful. Again, hopefully this week all those 3 articles will be released, and you'll enjoy them a lot. We're going to send them through email or maybe through a push notification in the app for you to check them out. So as I was saying, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to check for your Q&As. I'll check the chat too, because I know you made some questions there. But first, let me go for the Q&A. I'm going to stop sharing. Let me put my camera on. Great. So Q&A. Awesome. So first question, what needs to be done to comply with the GDPR? Actually nothing. What we need to do is from our side, we've been talking with our lawyers for weeks now, and it's going to change slightly the way we treat data, the way we encrypt it. But as far as I know, there's not much you need to do in terms of using Landbot. Of course, what you're going to do with that data as a company heavily depends on your use case, and I'd recommend you talking with specific specialists on these GDPR to make sure you're compliant with everything. So thank you for asking, Emmanuel. All right, next question. Are we going to discuss use cases of chatbots, or is it just a training session? This was more like a training session, but if you have some specific question on different use cases, I would say that there are basically 3 different use cases for Landbot. Of course, there are many more possibilities, but when it comes to building a Landbot, most of our users and customers use Landbot Twitter for lead generation, to generate leads. Second most common use case would be actually explaining your service, like substituting that website with a Landbot, a more interactive way of explaining your service. And the third one would be surveys or forums. Definitely, there's a lot of people that's bored of forums and they just want to create something different. And I believe those are the 3 main use cases. But what's really optimized for, like, the whole app, its features and everything, is for conversion. So that's what Landbot it's better at. If you have some other specific question about any use case you have in mind, please just type in another question and we'll answer it. So can Landbot autofill details? That's a very good question. That's slightly different from sending variables through the URL. So in terms of capacity, it does, because when you create and assign a chat to an agent block, if you have already asked for the email to that visitor, that field's going to be autofilled. But this is still a feature that we are testing internally for this specific Powerup, assign chat to human agent, and we'll be surely bringing some more of these features in the future. But right now, there's no way you can configure some autofilling details in Landbot, I'm afraid. Is it possible to create a validation field? For example, we have here in Brazil the ID number that is validated by JavaScript. So if the user doesn't type the right number, it will return asking for the ID correctly. All right, thanks Marcela for asking this question. This is something we get asked a lot too. At the beginning of Landbot some months ago, we used to have some sort of validation for phone numbers. But the problem here is that we have users from all around the world. It depends if the number has a prefix or not prefix or spaces or things like that. So we decided to remove that validation but the next move is definitely to make it customizable. Since every single customer has its needs, we need to be able to customize that validation. Right now, we found out that it's not super important to comply with a specific format. We got two different types of users, those that want to provide the right information and those that don't. So it doesn't really matter if you validate the format, same with email. So if that user doesn't want to give you his email or her email, he's going to just type in some fake email, and it doesn't really matter if you validate it. So I believe it's more important to make sure that there are no typos, there are no mistakes while trying to answer those questions than actually a validation. But of course, we'll be working on some customizable validation. Thanks for asking. What else we got here? All right, so you're already asking, how can I connect Landbot with my domain? Yeah, let me share my screen and show you. This is quite simple. I'm not going to go through the whole process, but just give you some some direction. So you need to go to the share section, and you need to click here and embed into your website. So of course, on the original section, we got the URL, but you want it in your domain. So click on embed into your website. And the first thing you need to do is click on this drop down. You can select between 3 different types of format. So you can go full page, which is like our home page, a full page conversation. It takes over the whole screen. You can go for widget mode or live chat. Let me show you a couple of examples on what this means. So widget mode, I got some example here. This is one of our customers. It's greatly integrated in their website, so you can keep scrolling and you got a regular website, but you still have a Landbot embedded right here. So this is the widget mode, and it's really powerful, and I believe that the whole experience is great. So the third format is the classical live chat. We got some other example here. So you got your own website, in this case Himalayan Wonders, and then they got their own live chat here. And yeah, it's basically a slightly different Landbot. So it's like the way it looks on mobile. So you can choose between those 3 formats: full page, banner, or live chat. And all you have to do is choose a format here, and the HTML is going to adapt. So you just need to copy these and paste it into your website. Of course, I know this is not going to help you a lot because you have some specific website provider and everything, but this is kind of the directions to how to implement it. If you don't know how to do it, if you're facing any issue, drop us a line at help@landbot.io or use the live chat we have here, and we'll be more than happy to help you. Right, let me stop sharing. All right. So what else? Thanks for asking, Gerardo. So Danielle Siscomani, I don't know if I pronounced it correctly, sorry. Can we add our own video background? Short answer, no. But there's some sort of workaround to do so. So most of our users, when they want that dynamic background, what they do is they download a high quality GIF and they just upload it in Landbot, so it can feel like a video in the background. If you want your own video, there's some workaround using a JavaScript function. I can share with you. So let me write that down, and I can share with you the process. It's a bit, again, it's a workaround, and it might cause some conflicts with future updates of the app, but it should work by now. And if it stops working, you can just let us know. Of course, we're planning to implement background videos, custom background videos, because I believe that the whole experience gets a lot better with that. So thanks for asking. Great. Next question, Jose Luis. Do you have planned to add tags feature in Landbot? I don't know if you mean tags for users or for questions, specific questions. Not sure about that, Jose Luis. If you could elaborate your question a bit more, what kind of process would you like to see covered with tags in Landbot? Thanks. Marcela again, thanks, Chris. Is it possible to track the state and city automatically through Landbot? Actually, when we get the country visitors are visiting us from, this is through an API. So we got a lot of IPs, and we can tell, all right, so this looks like an IP from Spain, this looks like an IP from the US. The problem here is that those more sophisticated APIs that actually get you the exact town that visitor is connecting himself from are not that accurate. So when it comes to countries, it's easy to tell as long as they don't have any VPN services or anything. But when we want to be really, really specific, the likelihood of getting wrong information is quite high. So we just decided to stick to country. So I'm afraid that's the answer to that question. It's not possible to automatically track that information. All right, more questions here. Do I get email notifications for all these questions? Great question. Let me share the screen again and show you on the flow how to configure an email notification. So if we go back to the builder, we could have configured not only a Zapier integration. Let me delete this arrow, but if we click on Powerups, we got Slack email notification. Let me just drag it and drop it here. And I can choose between Slack or email. If I click yes on emails toggle, I can select to which emails I want to send this information to. So I'm going to send an email to cristobal@landbot.io. The subject is going to be Fuli. And here I can add the body of that email with the different variables we've picked. So it could be like, you got a new lead, name is name, email is email, country is country, and so on. So definitely all you need to do is create a Powerup Slack email notification, select whether you want to receive that notification through email or Slack, and select that address you want to send it to, the subject, body, and you're good to go. You can just click save, and you'll get that notification. Just connected and everything's good. Thanks for asking. Next question, let me close this one. So another question, how do we use it for e-commerce brands? I believe you're thinking of how to connect Landbot with maybe your product catalog or things like that. So we don't have any pre-integration with any CMS platform like WooCommerce or things like that to make it a bit more easy. But it really depends on what you want to achieve with that live chat or with that Landbot in your e-commerce. So if you want to provide some information, you can definitely do that by just creating a flow that answers different questions, categorized in different sections. If you want to do that kind of dynamic filtering of your products, that's going to be a bit more complicated with today's features. So it really depends on your use case. Of course, you can add a live chat to your e-commerce and then provide real human support or answer some questions. But when it comes to fully integrating maybe your product catalog, that's something that's not possible yet. But we'll be working on covering more stages of the conversion funnel. Thanks for asking. Next one, what are some of the, is there a way to connect two bots, like a block that call another bot to take over? I'm happy to answer this question, Ricardo, because we're gonna add this feature really soon. I can tell you exactly when. It might be this week, might be next one, but yeah, we're working on a new type of blog that's actually a new chat bot. So you can create small chatbots like for NPS, for customer satisfaction, for, I don't know, like a forum, and you can just create your whole flow and connect that last block with one of these complete chatbots. So this is going to make it really easy to create big flows and not having to have all those blocks on the very same view, but you can make it quite complex but still keep it tidy. So yeah, this is going to be possible now, but really soon we'll be telling all of you. Thanks for asking. All right, next one. So Jose Luis elaborated the question about tags, and it says taxes store data of the flow. For example, if you ask for a question A, B, or C, and you want to create a tag for to save the answer question. Let me think about this. Text, for example, you ask a question A, B, or C, and you create a tag to save the answered questions. Actually, I believe you don't really need tags in this case, Jose Luis, because every single answer by a visitor is stored by Landbot. So in the flow app just created, I'm giving 3 different options in the welcome message. I can give more options later on. And Landbot is just gonna record that answer. If you click on the first, second, third, on any button, that's gonna be stored and you can access it easily from the analyze section. So let me share a screen again. Let me show you. So for example, if I just, if I create a new block here, ask a question, there's gonna be buttons. What's your choice? Choice 1, 2, or 3. And I click save. So I don't need text here because whatever the visitor is answering, I'm gonna store it. So let me show you. Let me save the flow. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, let me open it again. And let me show you what it looks like from the analyze section. So we've added 3 different options here. Great. And now it's going to ask me, what's your choice? 1, 2, 3. Let's say 3. That's enough. So if I go to analyze and then to results, this is the lead table with all the information collected. So you can see the name of the question, what is your choice, and the choice I've made, which was actually 3. So you don't really need to tag all this information. I believe that that's what your question is all about. If it's not, please clarify it again. But it shouldn't be necessary to use tags to differentiate between different answers of your visitors. All right, more questions. Is Zapier the best solution to integration, or webhooks would work great? For example, we would send the data from our CRM and get back the information on Landbot to have a customized experience. All right, so let me make the differentiation here. So we use Zapier to send information to another app. That's part of Zapier's directory. So this is very important. If the app you want to send information to is not part of Zapier's directory, you can use Zapier for that. And that's why we have the send webhook block. So send webhooks allows you to send any information to any third-party app, even if it's your own app. So you can use send webhook to send that information. But the third scenario is when you want to send that information, make a check, and bring back information to Landbot's chat. And to do so, you need a callback block, which is slightly different. So we got Zapier integration blocks to send information to other apps that are part of Zapier's directory. We got send webhook blocks to send information to any other app that's not part of Zapier's directory, or maybe it's your own app or anything. And then the third scenario is you want to send information and bring back information to the chat. You need a callback block for that. So yeah, it's totally possible. You just need, there's no better way of integration. You just need to find a perfect solution for your use case. Thanks for asking, Marcelo. One more. I'm thinking of making a personal shopper for my customers. Also, if it could answer questions like, where's my packet? Can you guys integrate all that in a bot? Again, yeah, as I was explaining for Marcela's question, the callback feature allows you to do so. So if you have all that information on your side, with the callback feature, you could send, for instance, you can ask, hey, what's your tracking code? And the visitor can send you the tracking code. You can send that variable to your system, make that query, and take back to the chat the information on tracking. Where's that package? So yeah, that's totally possible. And all you need is to configure that callback. We have an article in our knowledge base explaining this Powerup. It's a very simple example on how to make some queries to a weather API. But it's basically, I type in the location, that location is sent to that API, and we bring back related information, in this case, the weather and the temperature. So that's the same process to track orders or any other thing. Great. Sergio is asking, is the integration with Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp already working? That's a juicy question. So regarding Facebook Messenger, I'm afraid not. The integration is not working because in our app, you need to create a chatbot along with the integration of your Facebook page. And as you know, it's not possible to create new bots by now on Facebook Messenger. So the answer is no, there's no integration with Facebook Messenger yet. And regarding WhatsApp, we do have some customers using WhatsApp, but I would ask you to get in touch with us in order to know every step of the integration process, which are the conditions, the pricing plan you need. But yeah, the answer is yes, it's possible to integrate WhatsApp, and I would ask you to contact our support team if you want more information. So yeah, thanks for asking, Sergio. Andrea is asking, Chris, what about implementation of new functions like score variables, so math, so more complex conditional logic? Yeah, I would love to see all that. And what happens here is that we are developing new features really fast when it comes to the back end, but it's always hard to implement that on the front end. So I can tell you that many of the features you're constantly requesting, like math, like calculations, again, more complex conditional logic, like ranges, like maths, everything. That's something that's possible, and we'll be adding more and more features that use that technology week by week. So yeah, we'll definitely work on a more complex conditional logic that's able to work with ranges, with maths, with calculations. I can tell you exactly when, but that's definitely in our short-term roadmap, 1 to 3 months, and we'll be bringing really cool things. Andrea, thanks for asking. Andreas is asking, will the order of the buttons in the buttons questions will be editable? Right now, one has to redo all buttons from scratch if you want to add a new button to the top of the list. It's like a pretty basic feature that is missing. You're 1000% right, Andreas. This is the kind of thing that, yeah, it's actually quite bothering when you want to, yeah, I've been through that myself, to change the order of the buttons. You need to build them all from scratch again. Yeah, this is some feedback we've shared with the product team. Apparently, it's not as trivial as it might look, but yeah, they'll definitely work on it. I would recommend you, I don't know, duplicating the block and then editing the buttons. But again, yeah, it's going to be a bit tricky, and sorry about that. But yeah, we do have that on the roadmap, and we are aware of that missing feature. Thanks for sharing, Andreas. Thank you, Jose Luis. So basically, Landbot provides me options of creating bots which work on predefined flows only. Yeah, that's it. That's exactly how Landbot works. So in the chatbot world, we have two different types of chatbots. We have AI-powered chatbots and dumb chatbots, or Rail-based chatbots like Landbot. So we found out that creating really complex chatbots with a lot of natural language processing and machine learning and deep learning and cognitive recognition and things like that, those things are great. But when it comes to actually having a process covered, like generating a lead, so I want to give that information, I want to get that information, and that's basically it. We found out that it was way more easy to do that using Rail-based chatbots rather than high technology AI-based chatbots, which are way more expensive to build. Many people are not familiar with that technology. So yeah, basically Landbot allows you to connect blocks with arrows and create a conversational experience. And that's what makes it special. Anyone can create a Landbot in minutes. And of course it has some limitations. Nobody will believe they're talking actually to a human, but the thing behind is to have that conversational experience in minutes, and you can have it set it up in minutes, and that's what Landbot is all about. So Grainy asked, if I want to leverage Landbot for clients, it would be helpful to import and export chatbots into new client accounts. Is this possible? Oh, Landbot templates, not chatbots. All right, so yeah, you want to create those chatbots and have them into different accounts. Yeah, that's something that's really interesting. Thanks for sharing. I'll forward this feedback to the product team. But it's a bit more complex than that because of the variable relation. So every Landbot has its own variables, and it's linked to different conversations and customers and everything. So we need to figure a way of having just this Landbot file that we can upload, and that would be great. So it's not possible by now, but we'll definitely work on it. I mean, it's a great question. Let me type that one out. Thank you, Grammy. So Sergio, is the integration with Facebook Messenger? Sorry, I already answered this one. Is it possible to add a Facebook pixel and Google AdWords conversion tracking to Landbot? Yeah, actually, yeah, it's very easy and useful if you want to improve the performance of your Landbots and PPC campaigns. So when it comes to Facebook pixel, we have an article in our knowledge base covering how to do so. I believe we don't have that for Google AdWords, but that's probably one of the articles we'll be adding this week, because we want to work a lot of marketing content, help content. So yeah, definitely possible. Thanks for asking. All right, one more. A question: if I have a page where just there is a Google Analytics code, if I put a Landbot chatbot in this page, I should put another Google Analytics code, or can I use the same of the page? Let me read that again. So if I have a page where there's just a Google Analytics code, if I put a Landbot chatbot in this page, should I put another Google Analytics code, or can I use the same of the page? That's a good question, Alfonso. I wouldn't take it as answer, because I need to think a bit about that and share it with the marketing team. But I'll get back to you. Thanks for asking. Next, I would like that when the client Landbot in chatbot scroll down on the page, the chatbot begins automatically. This is very useful. Yeah, like these kind of push features are something we get asked to quite a lot. This is not possible yet, but I can ask the team if there's some workaround for these. But right now for the app, that's true. That's not possible to start a conversation according to some kind of behavior like scrolling or clicking or things like that. So thanks for asking, Alfonso. I'm afraid it's not possible yet. Next question, can we accept payments in the bot? I'm happy to say you'll be able to very soon. Again, I'm happy to hear you're asking questions about features we'll be releasing in the following weeks. This one in particular, I've been testing it myself in pre-production this morning. So yeah, very soon we'll be able to add payments to our chatbot through Stripe. Many of you were waiting for this feature, so yeah, definitely it's going to be possible to accept payments via Stripe in your Landbots. Do you have any plans to use Landbot integrated with WhatsApp when they release their API? All right, Marcela. So this is very hard to tell, because we haven't had, I mean, I believe almost anybody had access to WhatsApp's API, in case there is actually an API, a full API published. So we don't know. I believe that the cross-channel is one of the features we'll be working on in the following months. First with Facebook Messenger, which is way more open than WhatsApp, then with WhatsApp probably, but we still don't know. We need to see how their API works, if they finally publish it, and if it's possible to perform those cross-channel actions. It would be great. It would be definitely great. Thanks for asking. All right, so Luis again, do you plan to have team accounts so bots can be shared with other users, something similar to the team accounts in Zapier? I believe this is kind of related to the previous question of having the ability to move Landbots from one account to another. We'll be definitely working on some more team features when it comes to Landbot. The reality right now is that most of our accounts have a low number of seats, so it's more like I work on my Landbots and maybe 2-3 people maximum, but we're seeing that number increase week after week, and we'll be definitely working on team features. So yeah, we know about Zapier's theme features, and that's something great. We'll take that into account. And yeah, let me share that feedback with the product team again. That's great to hear. Thank you, Jose Luis. All right, so I believe we're done. So if you ask any other questions from now on, we'll just answer them by email, specifically to the one that asked that question. And Alfonso, I'll take a look at your question regarding the Google Analytics code in the container page and in the Landbot to make sure I got it right, and I give you a proper answer. All right, one more question. Last one, what's the pricing structure like? So we have 3 different pricing plans, actually 4, but the first one is premium for up to 100 interactions per month. And then we have 3 different pricing plans, starter, professional, and business. The main difference between these 3 pricing plans is that, well, starter gives you limited blocks, limited interactions, conditional logic, Facebook integration, those kind of power-ups and everything. The professional allows you to remove branding, which is the main reason why many people upgrade to the professional plan. And the last one, the business plan, is the one that allows you to have access to our API and to perform those callback integrations with external databases or apps. And that's basically the difference. Starter plan, to have a limited Landbots and blocks and Facebook integration, conditional logic, etc. Professional plan, if you want to perform the human takeover and get rid of our branding. And then the business plan, it's great if you want to integrate third-party apps and do great things. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Marcela. Thank you for coming. And thanks for your kind words. Thanks for sharing, Alfonso. I'll check your Landbot. Yeah, let me write it down too. I'll take it and I'll let you know. I'll give you an answer to your question. So thank you very much, everyone. Again, as we said, we're going to be sharing this recorded webinar. We'll also share the presentation. I think it's useful if you want to just copy and paste all those HTML snippets. And yeah, those questions are still being asked. We'll answer them through email. So thank you very much for coming to this webinar. We will probably sharing some sort of Landbot asking you how was the webinar and what would you like to see, or what would you like to see next in the following webinar. We'd love to hear that. So again, thank you very much for coming. Hope you had a nice hour and 11 minutes now, and have a good night. Thank you very much for coming. Bye-bye.